The corridor is full of smoke and flickering lights as the bearded man runs, clutching his side, not knowing what is chasing him, only that stopping means he won't stand again. Behind him, a metal door slams shut by itself, and somewhere in the building, alarms begin to howl like something has gone terribly wrong. He reaches a corner and nearly crashes into the short-haired woman, who is dragging someone heavier than she is and bleeding through her sleeve. They don't greet each other, because the building suddenly goes dark, and the emergency lights turn the walls into long red shadows. Somewhere below them, something heavy slams into metal, and the sound echoes up through the tower like a warning. Hours earlier, the same tower looked calm, expensive, and untouchable, sealed for a city-wide safety isolation drill that everyone trusted. The bearded man had signed off on the system himself, proud that no one could enter or leave until morning. Residents complained, but they still went inside, because the building promised perfect protection for one long night. When the main doors sealed, the control room confirmed it, and the thin man with glasses announced that everything was running in automatic mode. The first warning came as a small glitch, just one camera freezing for half a second, and no one took it seriously. Then a door on level 12 unlocked by itself and locked again, and the system did not log the event. By the time the second door malfunctioned, the bearded man was already heading toward the control room to check it personally. That was when the entire system rebooted without permission and did not come back online. Emergency power activated, but half the doors froze in whatever position they were already in. Some residents were locked inside their homes, and some were locked out in the corridors, and nobody could tell which was safer. The first scream came from the parking levels, sharp and short, and then cut off like someone had pressed a switch. Cameras in that area went black one by one, and the control room lost all visual contact with 3 full floors. The bearded man ordered everyone to stay in their apartments, but the announcement system only worked on half the building. Down in the parking hall, the tall bald man picked up something heavy from the ground and started walking toward the stairwell. Nobody saw him enter the stairwell, because at that exact moment, the emergency network shifted all power to the upper floors. The first body was found near the service elevators, and the cameras there were already dead. Panic started to spread faster than the announcements, because nobody knew if this was an accident or something planned. The bearded man left the control room to fix the problem himself, and that was the last time anyone saw it functioning. Somewhere between floors, the building's internal locks began sealing sections that were never meant to be isolated. Somewhere between floors, the building's internal locks began sealing sections that were never meant to be isolated. The bearded man moves through a corridor that should connect to the control core, but every access door now shows the same red lock symbol. On another floor, the short-haired woman drags the thin man with glasses into a stairwell, telling him not to look back. The thin man keeps asking about the cameras, and she keeps lying that they still work. In the parking levels, a second shadow joins the tall bald man, but the cameras there are already blind. The bearded man finally forces one door open and finds a security corridor that should not exist on the public maps. Inside, emergency lights reveal cables ripped out by hand, not by any automated system. In the stairwell, the short-haired woman stops suddenly because she hears metal scraping above them. They wait, and when the sound fades, they continue, but the thin man is already breathing too loud. 2 floors above, the tall bald man opens a door that should still be locked and steps into a residential corridor. The woman with braided hair hears voices outside her hiding place and realizes they are not calling for help. The bearded man reaches a junction where the tunnel splits, and the building map on his device shows nothing beyond that point. He chooses the darker path because the other one smells like smoke. In the stairwell, the short-haired woman and the thin man reach a floor that looks untouched and quiet. For a moment, they believe they have found a safe zone. Then a door behind them unlocks by itself. They run, and the thin man drops his radio, and it starts broadcasting static into the empty corridor. The short-haired woman does not stop for it. In another section of the building, a door opens and the woman with braided hair steps out, thinking the danger has moved away. She walks 3 steps before realizing the corridor is not empty. The tall bald man stands at the far end, already looking in her direction. She turns and runs, and the corridor lights shut off one by one ahead of her. In the tunnels, the bearded man finds a locked service room with fresh marks on the door. From inside, something hits the door once, slowly, as if testing it. And at the same time, somewhere far above, the short-haired woman realizes they are no longer being chased by one person. The bearded man forces the service room door open and finds only broken tools and a vent wide enough for someone to crawl through. From inside the vent, he hears slow movement traveling deeper into the walls. On the upper floors, the short-haired woman and the thin man barricade themselves into an apartment that still has power. The thin man tries to access the building network from a wall panel, but the interface shows only looping error messages. In the corridors below, the woman with braided hair hides in an apartment that is not hers and locks the door without turning on the lights. The tall bald man walks past that same door without stopping, dragging something heavy that leaves a faint line behind. The bearded man follows the vent path to a vertical shaft that connects multiple floors. He starts climbing, even though the ladder is not meant for emergency use. Halfway up, he hears something else climbing from below. He climbs faster and exits onto a service level that smells of smoke and burned plastic. Inside the barricaded apartment, the short-haired woman hears careful footsteps outside that stop directly at their door. No one knocks, but the door handle moves slightly, as if someone is testing the weight of the barricade. They hold their breath until the footsteps move away. In another part of the building, the woman with braided hair hears a crash from the corridor and knows her door will not hold long. She escapes through a balcony service hatch that leads into the maintenance levels. The bearded man reaches a monitoring substation and finds it smashed beyond repair. But one screen is still alive, and it shows the tall bald man moving upward through the tower. For the first time, he understands that this is not random and not a malfunction. The thin man finally admits that the system's core was manually overwritten before the lockdown began. They are not trapped by an accident, but by a design. The bearded man leaves the substation and heads for the only place that still connects all systems, the rooftop service deck. In the maintenance levels, the woman with braided hair runs straight into him, and both freeze in shock. Before either can speak, heavy footsteps echo somewhere above them. They run together without agreeing where they are going. And far above, the tall bald man reaches a floor where the lights are still fully on and smiles at the open corridor. The bearded man and the woman with braided hair reach the rooftop access door and find it half open, moving slightly in the wind. Beyond it, the city looks normal, distant, and completely unaware of what is happening inside the tower. The door behind them slams shut and locks, cutting off their retreat. On the floors below, the short-haired woman and the thin man hear the building shift, like something heavy has changed direction. The thin man finally forces one subsystem to respond and opens a narrow evacuation route that leads upward. They leave the apartment and move into the stairwell, knowing the route will not stay open for long. On the rooftop, the tall bald man appears from another access door, already carrying something taken from the building's core. The bearded man understands that if the device leaves the roof, the tower will never unlock. He steps forward to block the path, and the woman with braided hair moves to the side without being told. The tall bald man does not hurry, because he knows there is nowhere else to go. They collide, and all three stumble, and the device skids across the rooftop floor. The woman with braided hair grabs it and runs, even though she has no idea how to use it. The tall bald man follows her, and the bearded man forces himself up and goes after both. At the edge of the roof, the woman with braided hair stops because there is nowhere else to run. The bearded man reaches her first and takes the device from her hands. The tall bald man steps closer, and for a second, none of them move. The bearded man throws the device into the rooftop control housing and forces the panel shut. The tower shudders, and lights across the upper floors begin to change. Below them, the stairwell doors unlock one by one, and the short-haired woman feels the air change. The thin man laughs once, short and exhausted, and keeps moving upward. On the roof, the tall bald man retreats toward another exit, already knowing the building is no longer his. Security lights switch to full power, and the first external signals finally reach the tower. Hours later, the survivors sit wrapped in blankets in the parking levels, watching medics move between silent shapes. The bearded man looks up at the tower and realizes it will never be called safe again. And as the sun begins to rise, the tower stands open, empty, and permanently changed, while the city pretends it was only a malfunction.